So meta ads, beginner, and advanced system. So we're gonna start with beginner. Meta does not optimize for clicks, views, and likes. Meta optimizes for your choosing conversion event, but only once it has enough data. So Meta is a scientist, not a genie. What do I mean by that? So when you have a new Meta account, I talk to all my clients about this, you can't even spend really more than $5 because you have no data. So why would you waste the money like running a marathon without actually training for it? You have to focus on actually building the data, $5 a day, consistently testing ads, right? So you can actually scale that with the winners that get the most spend. One takeaway from this slide is to think of it as a data soldier. The more data you can get from it, the more you can train it to push out whatever your ideal demographic, whatever the age, category, gender, area is, to actually go out and win for you. So stop boosting, start systemizing. So boosting, everyone makes a mistake when they're first starting advertising. And again, this is like for new. We're gonna get into advanced systems in a second, but this is for new advertisers. Boosting on Instagram, you're just giving charity to Facebook. Like, it's doing nothing. You have no data. There's no actually engineering the demand in terms of how people actually see your ad. You're just giving Facebook money and it's gonna push it out to people who follow those accounts. Whereas Meta, when you're putting in the behaviors, interests, demographic, it's people who actually go externally. And Meta Ads Manager, unlike Instagram and Facebook boosting it on there, Meta Ads Manager, you can extract the data from people who have maybe gone to your website. Maybe like search different niches if you're in a law firm, if you're a real estate agent, if they've looked through a few agents to sell their home, list their home, etc. Now, if they go to your website, they're already in the market for that. It's gonna show your Meta ad on Instagram and Facebook to them. Does that make sense?
I have a quick question, Jeff.
Yeah, of course.
Does putting in like interest and demographics matter now though, like after like Andromeda?
Not as much. We're gonna touch on that a lot. We have a whole section, but if you guys don't know what Andromeda is, it's basically Meta had a massive update to where actually putting in targeting behaviors and interests, Meta's AI took that over. Like Meta's AI will actually scan your video and put in all the interests for you. You don't even need to actually go in and manually do it. But what it's optimizing for is actually more creatives. So a system I like to use to help me create like 20 plus creative is I'll film 5 different hooks, 5 different bodies, and 5 different call to actions or closing of the ad. And what I'll do is I'll mix and match them. So, right, we film 5 videos, right? We filmed a hook, body, call to action, and we'll actually mix and match them. So maybe we'll change the hook, change this body, keep the same CTA, etc. And that can give us like 20 plus variations. And it's a very simple way so you don't have to waste time and money on a team to go in and film more ads. Oh, what's up?
Well, would you say that like those body paragraphs and like those videos are relatively similar? I thought there had to be like I thought the creative diversity had to be like really different with the new update.
So what I mean is they're all different.
Yeah.
All the bodies are different, but you're kind of selling the same thing. So that is different though, because it's pushing more creatives of the same value. It's not something you need to worry about. You need to focus on the key performance indicators, KPIs. So most people obsess over the creative, and professionals actually obsess over the cost per lead range, the cost per qualified lead range, the cost per call booked, and the cost per customer. So numbers don't actually like necessarily mean you're gonna scale if you're getting a very low CPM. You have to be in touch with whoever you're running ads for, or your sales team if you're the business owner running it for you, on who's actually picking up, because there's a metric that every business should seriously look out for. And competitors, depending on how big your industry is, they will buy fake bots to infiltrate your ads and drive up your CPL. So that's something you seriously have to look out for. And on the new Andromeda update, thanks Roman for pointing that out, they actually attack that. So you can actually make them verify their phone number before it actually goes in, and that'll distinguish it if it's a bot or not. Now we're gonna get into a little bit more advanced. So that was a beginner. Now we're gonna get a little bit more advanced. Your funnel must measure 3 stages. So there's gonna be cold, right? When you're testing an ad, this is gonna be to cold audiences. You're not gonna actually add any lookalikes, you're not actually gonna add any customs yet. And for those who don't know what lookalikes and customs are, essentially a lookalike is if someone has actually engaged with your ad, either added it to cart, bought with you, you create an identical lookalike of their age, their gender, what their interests are, and you'll basically, Meta will populate an audience with its AI to actually integrate that. Warm. So this is actually engagement plus conversion. So you're actually gonna build out a full funnel. So my exact agency structure when I'm running ads is the cold is just gonna go to a lead form. Once it's warmer and we're actually using the lookalikes and the custom audiences, I'm going to build something like a click funnel or go high level, and their AIs are really good to build it really quick if you don't want to pay for a graphic designer. But this just makes it way easier for them and way more professional because they can actually see more of what you're offering. Whereas a lead form, it's just you fill out a quick questions, you get the data, but we already now have that data from the cold audience. So the hot buyers. So the objective is conversion only. So we're really only focusing on using custom audiences for this, not as much lookalike, because we now can integrate the lookalike like almost into the custom and only utilize that exact demographic of people who are already converted with these two objectives. And this is, again, a funnel. It's not a lead form. This is the data that I've gathered. Like, lead forms are so much better for cold stages, just to develop the data on who your demographic is, who's actually engaging, who's taking the time to fill out your quiz funnel. And then you're obviously going to want to change it to where they're already accustomed. They're sophisticated with actually what you do and how you do it. So you're going to be able to actually just send them to a landing page to where they can book a call directly. Whereas with a lead form, you're just getting their data. You're not actually having them book a call right away. The business will actually reach out to them. So what's special about that is with the data you develop, you're cutting out the real middleman of the setters.
I was gonna say, does it all depend on the business as well though?
100%. Yeah. Do you have a specific business in mind that you're thinking?
For like our client, one of our clients, we're running ads and we're just doing instant form. And we have all that data and we send it to him and he calls them, he qualifies them. But they're already pre-qualified because of
the quiz they filled out.
Exactly, yeah. And we don't really have that top of funnel, middle funnel, bottom of funnel. We have just like testing. We're just testing creatives, see who like his ICP is. And then we have our scaling campaign. So we're retargeting anyone who's like, I guess I could say, engaged with his testing into that scaling. Because they're already, I guess I could say, warm.
And that can definitely work, but what I would recommend to you guys is what I noticed you just said is the business owner is calling the leads.
Yeah.
Imagine the leads call the business owner.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I hear in that. You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
What you're doing is working, like, no doubt, but like with clients and business owners, you want to, like I said on the first couple slides, make it as simple as possible. So your funnel must measure into 4 stages. This is kind of like some offer creation psychology in here. So 1 irresistible offer. That will maybe be if you're an agency owner, I'll get you 20 book calls or you don't pay. Something like that. And the offer creation is something that you will come up with as a business, and once you actually have a set offer, then you can kind of push this funnel. So 1 clear niche and problem. So a lot of people make the mistake when they're just starting of not niching down soon enough. Like, you have to identify who you're going after and just absolutely just straight face right at them, like only that niche, because then you become the go-to business for that niche, which is super, super important. It gives you massive leverage in your marketplace because the smaller and smaller audience you can serve, the more you can become the shark in that market. Obviously, 1 simple funnel, that may be a click funnel, a quiz form, etc., and 1 KPI equation. So what do I mean by that? So with KPIs, it's super important to have like your key indicators. Like, what are your CPMs, like cost per 1,000 views? What is your average cost per lead? These are super important indicators, especially when running meta ads, to actually take into account on how you're going to upgrade to the scale campaign and which ads you're actually going to take from tester spending $5 a day to spending 150, 1,000 a day. We have some clients spending 1,000 because we took such extensive testing that they're not losing money because we already have the data. We know who to push meta to. Intermediate. So that was the intermediate system. We're actually going to go into the advanced system. Cold, warm, hot. We went over that. You guys understand that. The cold traffic is going to be more broad. The interest, the lookalikes, there's going to be none of that. The KPIs, so the cost per conversion event, is going to be set to extremely broad, especially when we're testing, and you guys obviously understand that as people who ran ads before. The warm audience, we're going to send them now to a page, not really a funnel, because it's like I said, you want to eliminate steps in the process. There's a psychology thing I saw the other day to this business owner. Actually, we did it with your dad, where he had this website, and you have to click on the website, and to get the free quote, which classifies as a lead, they had to, once they fill out the info, they have to click like 3 buttons to finally get their quote. And so we eliminated that. We just put more on one page, and we saw the cost per lead like drop drastically. So just eliminating the process, eliminating the clicks, just making it easier for the viewer. Because like I said, the attention span is awful. So the easier we can make it for everyone, because we're getting lazier by the day, at least not us in this room, but just the easier we can make it for people, the better. So hot. So the cost per engaged conversion plus PPE. So hot conversions come from a landing page and an offer at the checkout. It's not from filling out an entire quiz. It's from, you've already pre-warmed them. You have all the data from the tester campaigns to be able to get them to actually convert on the scaling ad to where you're actually putting in the lookalike and you're putting in the custom audiences because they're the exact people who already converted. So you feel more comfortable as a business owner spending more money and just eliminating that setter process of having to actually go and manually call them. And they're actually going to call you. So retargeting framework, this is my exact retargeting framework that I've used for all my clients. So warm retargeting first. So the campaign objective, obviously conversions, which is leads. So the best performing cold angle is essentially just testing as many creatives with the new Android Meta update. And the easiest way to do it is, like I explained, with the 5 different frameworks and just changing the hooks, the bodies, and the CTAs. So the audience. So what I mean is this is either the lookalike or the custom. So it'll give you an option to upgrade or keep the same engagers from 180 days. This is just, it continuously updates until after 180 days. So that's typically as long as we run the scaling campaign, only because when you have a super high performing ad, something that could happen is it gets creative fatigue, which means people start copying you. Like Diro, or I think Callie talked about, like when you're doing something right, people copy you. And it's super easy to study meta ads in the meta ads library to the point where it's very easy for them to copy you. So I would say the duration of having the lookalikes and everyone, because they can steal some of that data from your lookalikes, so just have it running for an average of 180 days to where the data keeps uploading. The budget. So once you guys, so like $50 per 10K audience is like an average. So if you spend $50 on Meta, you should reach 10,000 people if you have a good CPM. It honestly depends per industry. You know what I mean? I saw that look. Like it really depends per industry. Like if you're in real estate selling a home, that's crazy. But the case study I'm going to go into, our client, he owns a gym for special needs kids. This is very much accurate because where's the competition in that? Imagine how niche that is. So there's not really any competition in that industry. So it's going to be a pretty accurate amount for $50 per 10K. But this is pretty standard. Like if you have a really good creative, there's no reason why you spend $50 and get 10K views. That's standard. Like really, aside from extremely high ticket like construction or real estate, agents selling homes getting commission of 40 to 60K, this is pretty standard for all industry. So why we add a PPE? So PPE is page post engagement. So you want to create a second retargeting campaign, which is essentially like, it's like a duplicate of the one that you're exactly using. And I haven't gotten into this strategy yet. This is a little bit new and it's been crushing it for my clients so far. So creating a second retargeting campaign. So let's say you have one campaign solely targeting the custom audience. Like we wanted to just focus on that, right? These are people who added your products to cart, but didn't engage. So it's just retargeting them, right? That's the custom. The lookalike is people who have already bought from you and it's just targeting other people. And the reason I duplicate it and put almost like not an ad set budget, but I actually make 2 campaigns is so that campaign objective can be solely focused on the lookalike or the custom. So why we add a PPE? So conversion retargeting warms them logically. So if you're giving a campaign the objective, right, obviously we want leads, but if you're giving it the objective of solely going after the data of the people who have already bought from us and just creating a lookalike, that campaign is going to optimize way better. And of course, with the more creatives you do, the more you optimize for that, that's when it's going to actually come into fruition. The same thing with the lookalike. If you have a sole campaign focused on the lookalike, that's when you're actually going to see results because it's focusing on its sole conversion event. One sells the brain, the other sells the ego. So like the custom is really like you're trying to get them to buy something new. That's why we add that second campaign because they've already bought from you once, they have that trust, now we're trying to get them again on a different product or service, different price point, etc. So tracking deep before scaling. So don't scale based on cost per lead, clicks, scale based on cost per deep action. This is super important. A lot of people, especially when I was just starting, if you're a business owner, agency owner, and you're getting a bunch of leads on your campaigns, it's very important to note that cost per lead doesn't matter. As long, like you have to go deeper and really like talk with the business owner. I know you have, because they could be just getting fake leads. Like I said, like competitors will buy fake leads to drive up your conversions so they can actually take most of the leads. It's a very, very common thing. So you have to really talk to them, who's buying, what age category. We can see that on Meta, who's actually biting and getting on these sales calls with you, even if you don't close them. Like, what are they saying? Where do they find you? Like, what specific ad? And really going into deep action on actually what is actually working, because it's super important that you don't scale a campaign based on fake leads. It's very easy to get a bunch of leads, like what's actually converting, where are these leads coming per ad, etc. Cost per deep action. So what I like to do in terms of the lookalike is people who've watched the video 50 to 75%. And for people who don't know Meta, you can actually get this metric and retarget them. So obviously if they watched over half the video, if it's a minute long video, a minute long ad, etc., to 75%, they're more inclined to actually buy because they actually showed interest. Why would they watch that long? It's just a key indicator that you can use in the campaign focused on lookalikes or custom. So lead magnet completion. This is a landing page. This is something for free. This is a free course funneling them to the paid community. Sales page view, call booked. So I like creating a few different variations. You can do this on ClickFunnels. So if you create one landing page, you pay someone to do it in terms of a graphic designer, you can almost duplicate it and it will use its AI to actually create a whole different one. So that's an easier way to test a few landing pages just to make sure it's fresh and new audiences. And if those new audiences are seeing it converting, the ones that have already been on it and didn't convert see it and they see something new. So that was advanced. Now we're gonna go into horizontal scaling. So don't scale the budget of one ad set, scale the number of the winning ads. More small winners, one big loser. So the more you can limit and we'll go into this in a second, the more you can limit the losers and scale the winners, even if it's very small, like the better. Obviously, more creatives will get there. So the 5 to 10 KPI rule. If your cost per lead is $10, the optimal ad set budget would be 50 to 150, not 500, not 1,000. And we actually integrate this with his dad. We were getting very good leads, but we were spending like 500 a day. There's no reason for that. Like if we're getting a lead at $10, why would we spend 500 to 1,000? It just doesn't make sense because you're probably thinking, Jane, well, why wouldn't I want 1,000 leads? What business has a sales team to actually have that capability? You have to take that into account and understand that. All right, we have a winning creative. Let's be optimal. We don't have to overspend, but let's also be conscious of our salespeople. Like we have 10 salespeople on the floor, 50 leads coming in. Like it doesn't make sense. And obviously, everyone knows the quicker you can get to these leads, the higher intent they are. And that goes back to your question. Like the quicker you can get to these leads on lead form, yes, it's important for conversion. Imagine if they're calling you. So cold traffic spend limit, $10 per 10K audience. So based on optimization plus entropy rule. So distribute, don't overload. So what do I mean by that? So the cold traffic spend limit, when you're spending $10 on a 10K audience, you guys probably, like this probably looks confusing, but when you're testing for engagement, that's a pretty like sound number, getting 10,000 people in terms of like a week or 2 week notice. But each audience member that you get in that's purely just to get data. We're not trying to actually integrate high spend on this. This is more like almost a little bit of an upgrade from the tester campaign. So when to make lookalikes. So this is something I think if you guys do run ads for businesses, you should write down because this is like, people don't know because the tester campaign, everyone knows you do not need to have a lookalike and you don't need to have a custom on the tester. But you're like, well, when I scale this ad, what are the metrics when I can actually start having Meta with its AI populate the lookalike or custom? Like when does that actually happen? This is the exact numbers. So after 100 engagements, after 300 opt-ins, like people actually opting into the form, this is just standard. I mean, you can even do like 100, 200, it's fine. But after 300, you can really raise the price and really go all in on actually adding the custom audience and the lookalike. After 100 sales call bookings and after 100 purchases if it's an e-commerce brand. So lookalike chain. So this is essentially kind of what you're gonna add into that lookalike. And again, just regurgitating what a lookalike is if someone actually opted in and became a customer from your ad, Meta is gonna use its AI to create a lookalike and actually push that to other viewers, just like the ones who bought from you in the past. So you're gonna put engagers, so people who maybe liked your ad, and this is what you basically program Meta to do to get the data, if you guys understand. Opt-in, so people who actually booked calls, maybe showed up, maybe didn't. Same again, book calls are people who actually got on the call, and then buyers, people who bought before, because again, this is for lookalike. So each level equals a higher buying intent. Each level equals a higher scaling potential. So Sandbox production. So test in the Sandbox. So this is my exact like testing and scaling procedure for businesses. So when I test, I'm using a $5 budget for around 2 weeks. I'm splitting the audiences in terms of like multiple ad sets. Like I'm letting Meta's AI decide one on that set. If you guys know what an ad set is, it's basically where you're telling Meta where to push your ad to in terms of location, demographic, etc. And I'm splitting that between who I think is my target audience. If you're a business owner, who you think is your target audience, and then you're letting Meta decide who your target audience is, and you're actually split testing that, if that makes sense. Scale and production. So like when you scale the winners, you're really looking at the 5 to 15x KPI, and then you're starting to add lookalikes when you scale it. And what's applicable for scaling is anywhere from, like we just looked at, if we're getting $10 per lead, there's no reason in spending 500. We're already making money. So we either have to upgrade our team, and this is like business internally. It's like more about your infrastructure. So you don't need to overspend to get leads. If you know your target lead, this is your average leads across all campaigns, like you don't need to raise that price. But obviously, once you find a winning ad, you're gonna raise the price to the scaling campaign. And you're gonna start adding lookalikes, retargeting, and PPEs. So do not scale fast, scale forever. So amateurs scale fast, which is crashing. So like they raise their ad spend way too quick. Like you guys don't need to rush into ads. You need to rush into actually creating a marketing engine that runs in your sleep and actually is consistent. Consistency is way better than speed. Professionals scale forever. That equals them actually being able to dominate the market. So if you guys look at Google, the reason I love Meta so much is because you can't compete with Google. If you look at Coke, if you look at any of the massive companies like Nike, you're not going to be able to compete with them because they're spending $1 million a month on Google ads. Like you're looking them up, constantly top. But with Meta, you're actually able to come into their feed subconsciously. They're searching for you, and Meta understands that, takes that data. It's kind of scary that they can do that, and actually you'll be shown in their feed from that audience and from actually searching that. So that's how you're going to compete with these bigger brands with Meta. So this is a client case study, and I want you guys to understand that this is actually Devine, a very good friend of ours and client that we've been able to do very well for. And this is an example of kind of what a Meta ad campaign looks like. And as you can see, obviously we just raised this campaign. And based on the framework that I was just telling you guys about, I'll let you look at this for a second. But we turned off the tester campaign and upgraded it to the main campaign. And if you guys see the cost per result right here, $2 per filled out form. And for his type of audience, it's kind of hard to integrate that landing page. So that's why we did a form for this one, just because the results were too amazing. We were getting $2.73 cost per result, which means cost per filled out form. Everyone knows that means they filled out a whole quiz, gave us their information, consented to actually getting a marketing call from us. And if we look, $2, why would we spend, when I scaled the budget, we were spending $5 at the time. Why would I do $100? Like they have a few locations. They don't have the infrastructure to be able to handle hundreds and hundreds of leads. So we only upgraded it to 15. And before this was around I think 50 leads at $5 a day, right? With they're around the same cost per conversion. And we upgraded to 15 and it doubled. But that's pretty much, that's manageable. So the goal is to generate consistent low-cost leads to fill their tester campaign. So before us, they had inconsistent lead flow, high cost per acquisition from previous efforts, and not a scalable ad system. They tried Meta ads, but they didn't actually have a clear set system, which is what we're developing here. So after our system, they got predictable leads on demand, cost dropped to as low as $2.74 per lead, 145 total leads generated on only $15 a day. This is amazing. It's a pretty high ticket service. So the $5 a day testing framework kind of explained, we went into some nitty gritty details earlier, but this is kind of explained in more simple terms. So phase one is going to be creative volume testing. So with Andromeda, that's what we're optimizing for, more creatives. So we have to test multiple variations of the creatives, hooks, angles, and value propositions. So each ad started at only $5 a day. We let data decide winners, not based on our opinions. And why this works, it's very low risk. Any business can afford $5 a day. It's $150 a month. And the amount of data you're getting from it will probably, if you don't want to run ads anymore, you can utilize that into your outreach, cold calling, cold emails, what demographic to push to.
Do you like ABO budget more than ad set versus campaign budget?
I always use campaign. It's just easier to kind of distinguish. And what you do want, when you start running for e-commerce brand, if you were to run ads for Cali, you're going to use that ad set budget because you're using a lot of really different targeting, because maybe one ad set, right, it's going to America, the other one's going to Europe. It's just to keep more organized.
And then based on location too, do you do, if you're gonna target a specific location, do you do one macro location with a 50-mile radius, for example?
I'll give an example. So for this case study, he's only in California. They only can get the insurance in California, so that's where they're targeted. So let's say they're opening a gym in Santa Clarita, which they just did. We're running just a 15-mile radius around Santa Clarita, and then
so you go by
yeah, exactly. Because again, that's just wasting budget.
Okay.
If we have a massive circle around anything over 30 miles, no one's driving. You have to account. All right, is this an in-person thing? Right? Is this an online thing? You just have to account for that. What are people willing to do? Would you be willing to drive 30 miles 3 times a week to a gym for your kid? Probably not. Scaling strategy, spend where Meta spends. So phase 2 is duplicate all and allocate majority of the steps to winners. So obviously we went over this a few times. I'm glad I've been able to ingrain it The way you find a winning ad from the tester is the one that gets the most spend and the one that actually gets the most results. It's pretty standard. You'll scale that and up the spend. So after 2 weeks of testing, we scaled the meta ads and it naturally favored the ones that got the most spend. And we increased the budget and the cost per lead dropped even further. So lead volume doubled without actually doubling the cost. Like, even though we did double the cost, like the lead volume actually accounted for that. So the final results and why it matters. So 145 leads at just $5.44 cost per lead. This is across 2 campaigns, so it factored. The one campaign that had 118 leads, that was $2.74 per lead. So this scaled profitably without burning budget because our math-driven system, like we understand that if we're getting leads at $2 a day, like we don't need to spend 50. No one has the infrastructure for that. So we have to understand that what can our sales team handle in terms of leads coming in? If we're getting 10 leads a day, right? We have a 10-person sales team, that's pretty applicable. That's pretty standard. Like we can handle that. And the framework takeaways for you and your business. So our guys want you to start testing at $5 a day, let the data pick the winners, and scale only what the data proves. So most agencies and businesses waste budget by scaling opinions and overspending. That's not what we need to do. Like, we're in the business of, even if you're a business owner, you want to save money, but as an agency owner, you're in the business of saving businesses money. So yeah, overall, this is the last slide. I hope you guys can audit your beliefs in terms of how you guys are thinking as a high-level entrepreneur and really think of this game as a sport, and to constantly put into your body and feed your mind with knowledge and differentiate yourself from other people. Clean your funnel, right, to one key performance indicator, like what's the one thing that will allow you to actually scale. Track deep metrics, not just leads. Leads can be bought, leads can be faked, whatever. Like, track, really talk to your clients, get the data like in real time, what's actually working. And create a cold plus warm plus hot funnel correctly. Build a sandbox production, which is again just starting with the testing, and use the 5 to 15x KPI rule. Add PPE plus lookalikes only when it's ready. Don't rush into that. Let the testing campaign play out, and then scale horizontally, not vertically. That's it. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.